This is a Western army that went in. This is a NATO army that went in, fighting the next generation war that NATO, all NATO troops are being trained upon. The irony is that apparently only the Ukrainians know how to do it now. This is a totally different approach than what was taken in the summer of 2023 when the Ukrainians launched their big counteroffensive that failed dramatically against Russian defenses. The Ukrainians and NATO recognized by late summer, early fall of 2023 that they can't do that again. And they've been husbanding resources that should have gone to the front lines to fill the gaps. But Ukraine has sacrificed so many troops in the Donbass fighting a futile fight, buying time so that this new NATO army, look, they've got the M1 tanks, they've got the Leopards, they've got the Bradleys, they've got the Strykers, they've got the Martyrs, they've got the Caesar artillery, M777, they got the HIMARS. It's all there, all integrated using Starlink and other communications capabilities that are managed by Americans and NATO people. They have embedded the Ukrainian force with facilitators. They're not Ukrainian. And many of the combat forces are literally Polish army forces that have been redesignated as Ukrainian forces. There's some French combat units. We're talking about, company-sized units of Frenchmen that fight as a unit under the flag of Ukraine, but wearing the French arm patch. There's lots of Americans there. Let's just clear the record here. NATO invaded Russia using Ukraine as a proxy. Let me just say it one more time so you understand the gravity of what I'm saying. NATO invaded Russia. The heartland of Russia. Kursk. NATO invaded. Has it sunk in yet what I just said? That's a game-changing event. Forget anything you thought about this before. It's over. It's done. Ukraine is dead. That's the only outcome now. Ukraine is dead. Now the question is, does the West want to die alongside it? I spoke to a Russian official today, and he wouldn't get specific, but he basically said, this decision's already been made, and you'll know what I'm talking about when it happens, and it won't take too long for it to happen. Ukraine and the West have been laboring under this perception that Russia's at war. I don't know how many times Putin and the Russians had to say, guys, we're not even close to being. It's a special military operation. We're sort of like tying one leg, back and one hand back and sort of hopping around. NATO invaded Russia. And so this is going to bring about a terrible Russian response. It's the end of Zelensky's regime. It will not be allowed to exist. It's the end of Ukraine. Russia doesn't want Western Ukraine. That doesn't mean Russia can't destroy Western Ukraine. And if you think there's going to be a city of Lvov left over when this is done, think again. Lvov is the heart of Banderist ideology, and Russia has now said it's over. Ukraine is going to learn what war is in the very near future. It will send a shiver down the spine of everybody in the West. Congratulations, NATO, you idiots. You invaded Russia, and you didn't think there was going to be a price to be paid. Bases operating on NATO soil that are being used to support this are no longer off limits. NATO invaded Russia. I just want everybody to understand what happened, what is happening, and why it's going to be a game-changing event. If you're a German and you're proud of the fact that German tanks are operating on Russian soil, not just in Ukraine, but on Russian soil, in Kursk, means you're an idiot and you're a Nazi at heart. NATO invaded Russia. NATO invaded Russia. There's no equivalence. You see, people, they're like, well, Russia invaded Ukraine, therefore Ukraine can be. No. Ukraine had an illegal Western coup that removed the constitutionally elected government, replaced it with ultranationalists who then declared war against Russians, ethnic Russians, Russian culture, Russian language in the Donbass, slaughtering the Russians. And eventually compelling the leader of the Russian people to intervene to save the Russians. There's no equivalency here. These are bad people. These are Banderas. These are Nazis. Hold accountable those politicians, those military people who are gloating that there's German tanks killing Russians on Russian soil today. If you don't condemn this with every ounce of your being, then you're human scum. You're Nazis.